There are a lot of things that are being smuggled across the U.S.-Mexico border. Very, very serious things, as we know. We talk about it here a lot. The border is wide open. But this was not one of the things that I expected we would have to think of as now being smuggled in from Mexico. Eggs. I don't mean eggs full of cocaine. I don't mean eggs like plastic eggs that are stuffed with little baggies of heroin. I mean chicken eggs that you would use for any number of delicious meals. I'm a big scrambled eggs guy, Clay. I do make amazing scrambled eggs. When you come and stay with Carrie and me sometime, do you eat eggs? You're not an egg guy.
I'm fine with eggs, although I was stunned how much eggs get consumed in general. Like, I'm not anti. In the New York Times, in the Wall Street Journal, they had an article about the average American eats 28 pounds of eggs a year.
Eggs are a base protein for the American diet. And by the way, a very good... All that stuff you heard about, eggs are bad for you, limit the number. That's nonsense. Everyone's realized this now who actually pays attention to nutrition in the studies. Eggs are a superfood. They are phenomenal for you overall. Eating eggs, a great source of protein, a lot of other things in that are really good for you. Eggs and chicken, I think, are our foundation in our diets, in the Western diet, American diet. That's our foundational protein. And eggs have gotten really expensive. I mentioned this on the show because I eat eggs every day. So I'm one of those. I'm one of those Americans. I probably eat more than 28 pounds of eggs a year. But the problem, Clay, I have is I'll put like goat cheese and cheddar and throw some bacon bits in there. I go full fat kid with my eggs. If I just had the eggs, that's super super healthy. But U.S. Customs and Border Protection says that egg seizures, because you're not supposed to just bring all that stuff, or you bring any fruits or vegetables or meat or poultry products with you. Egg seizures have risen 91% in El Paso, 333% in Tucson, 368% in San Diego. So there are a lot of people trying to sneak eggs across the border. You have to wonder how long is it before people are flying drones with eggs and doing some of the cartel things that they do. Maybe a tunnel underground under the border with, eggs being sent from one side to the other. And I also, you told me this, I didn't realize this, in my neighborhood down here in South Florida, there actually are neighborhood chickens. There are chickens just wandering the neighborhood, which I had not, that's not something when I'm back up in New York City, I don't experience that. Down here, you have neighborhood chicken. More and more people want to have chickens so they can have their own eggs.
So this is wild. The Wall Street Journal actually had a front page about this, about how much the price of chickens have gone up. So a ton of people are, to your point, buying their own chickens to raise them so they can get eggs. They've actually sold out all over the country of chickens. Like, you can't buy them. And this Wall Street Journal article says Tractor Supply Co. is the industry's biggest seller of chickens. It's more than doubled its live chicken business since 2018. They expect Buck to sell 11 million chicks this year. And a lot of people are buying their own little chickens and then raising them. And you can't even get chickens now. They're saying they're basically out of stock because there is such a shortage, because people have said, oh, eggs are so expensive now, I'm going to raise chickens and get my own natural eggs. You can't even buy them now because there's such a shortage because they've gotten so popular.
I've been to Tractor Supply many times because when we would go visit my grandparents in the Hudson Valley in New York, they lived in a farm area. They were bordered by farms. It was all farms, and then they had this plot of land that they built a house on as a place to go in the summers. And I just remember we would go into Tractor Supply with my mom and dad when I was a kid, and the little yellow chicks, they are really cute. So they're selling. They have like a little bin of these yellow chicks, and you're like, I could take one of these home. But my parents would, of course, always remind us they then grow into chickens that poop and peck and have needs,
creative big problems.
It's kind of like when you get your kid a little tiny adorable fit in your hand bunny rabbit for Easter. that little rabbit's going to live like 8 to 10 years, and it's going to grow into a big rabbit that's going to have big rabbit needs. But if you're doing this for the eggs, I can imagine that for a lot of people, financially, it feels like that makes, especially because, right, you have miracle of life. You have some chickens, some of the eggs can be fertilized, you have more chickens, and then you can produce all your own eggs, and maybe you can sort of sell eggs to some of your neighbors until the FBI probably comes after you for illicit egg sales. But, this is what happens.
Well, you also have to be careful because then you have a chicken coop, and then there are all sorts of animals trying to raid the chicken coop, so you have to protect the chicken coop. It turns into a big investment. The Wall Street Journal story says it costs you about $600 to get to the point where you can have chickens raising eggs when you factor in the cost of a coop, when you factor in all the feed that you're going to have to, not to mention the time. But so you're making a $600 investment. When I was a kid, Buck, one of the most popular little places at Opryland, which was maybe the worst decision made in the history of the city of Nashville to allow this amusement park, country music-themed amusement park, to get shut down and replaced with a mall that nobody cares about. But they had a chicken area where you could go watch all the baby chicks being born. And, they had like a farmland area or whatever. And I just remember how intoxicating and hypnotizing in many ways it was as a little kid to get to sit there and watch all of the chickens being born coming out of the eggs. So I imagine there are a lot of parents out there that have done this chicken coop thing, not only for the purposes of, hey, we can have fresh organic eggs that we're creating on our own, but also to show the kids how much fun it can be to create kind of this little chicken coop.